Hello and thank you for clicking on this. I guess I'm gonna briefly try and expand on my whole Edgelord pipeline thing. And by briefly, I mean this would probably take me 20 minutes to actually talk about. Let's see if I can get that timing right. I hear that's a good YouTube time. Um, I have read the chat. I did on my Kidology appearance read the chat. I didn't think it was a good idea to respond. But one thing which did actually offend me, which did get to me, is someone said something like, now we know what a 4chaner and a Sam Hyde fan looks like. And bitch, I'm not a Sam Hyde fan. I have never liked Sam Hyde that much. I had a big argument about this guy a while back, like back when this video dropped, because to me it was just such an obvious example of someone just going on a rant about, gay people, which, I wouldn't mind if people didn't insist it was funny, which it really wasn't. Like, I mean, I guess if you just want to piss people off, it is. Which, if you're honest, but then there's a lot of things you can do just to piss someone off. It's a pretty shitty stand-up, to be honest. I don't think he's very good here. I guess I'll briefly talk about stand-up comedy before I move in, because I do that on the regular and have been for a long time. I do think there is something to that about, like, saying shocking stuff to kind of get people's heckles up, and that it is interesting to look at someone like Chappelle, because I'm a big Chappelle fan. I've always liked Chappelle, and I'm in two minds about his recent drama regarding his special. On one hand, I don't think Chappelle has ever actually been woke. I think that's a big lie people who sort of like him and now can't have to say, because a lot of his content, like, I just see Chappelle bullies the homeless in new comedy thing, and I'm like, wait, didn't he do that like 10 years ago? Wasn't that sort of a regular thing for him? The same for a lot of his like more right-leaning takes. Like, yeah, I get it, he's a sort of pro-black guy in certain regards, but a lot of his other stuff has always kind of had a right-leaning ring. I mean, he even had a bit about how women dress and how, like, hey, you are wearing a horse uniform. That was one of his lines. So yeah, I guess I'll just bring that up. And I think what's interesting to bring this up to Sam Hyde is how many people, I think, probably decide they like him now because he's like, oh, he's finally saying what we think about trans people. Which, if you agree, that's fine. Just don't present it as like comedy genius, because it was one of his weaker specials, I'm afraid. Sticks of Stones is still really good though. So let's talk about me as like a kid, and the Edgelord pipeline, as you might say it. Now, when I was young, I was really into Todd Solondz. So I think I was one of those few teenagers who absolutely loved stuff like Welcome to the Doll's House. I like a lot. Absolutely love storytelling. One of my favourite fucking films. I know it's basically two different movies, but whatever. And I think part of that was I had a very miserable worldview, and I was very miserable as a teenager in general. So this stuff was very appealing to me because it kind of confirmed a lot of how I felt about people, and that was part of the appeal. And yeah, it was controversial and edgy and in your face and being uncomfortable. At the same time, I kind of felt like this seemed more genuine to reality than a lot of other like films and things like that. It felt like like he was making dramas about stuff which at least I felt I was closer to having experienced in my life. Let's move on. Before I go, I want to say, anyone who hasn't seen Boys on the Run and likes Todd Solondz, please check out that movie, 2010 Japanese film. If you're like a slightly depressed, like late 20s, early 30s something guy, do really watch that movie. It's really good. Not enough people have seen it. Okay, let's talk about Frederick Brennan and how that slightly relates to what I was just saying about Todd Solondz. Now, Frederick Brennan, him here, he's the dude who ran 8chan in the past. He made the site. He used to be part of, I think, an incel forum, I believe. I have a lot of respect for Brennan. I like him a lot. I think he's a very good guy who's kind of put up with a lot of shit, and most of what you could say is most of his flaws I feel are very understandable from where he came from. And what was interesting was I was watching an interview with him, and he talked about kind of going on the Chan boards, as this kid who was like obviously severely disabled, and how he actually really liked the kind of nastiness of them, and how as someone, he was someone who, you just look at him, you can tell this isn't a guy who has a great life, and you can tell this is a guy who probably gets a lot of insincere stuff said to him. And to someone like that, I can see the appeal of going on these chants where everyone's really nasty and will just say, yeah, you're a piece of shit that shouldn't have been born, and maybe you do feel like you're a piece of shit which shouldn't have been born. And I think that does have a strong appeal because it feels more genuine in a lot of ways than the kind of faker, more progressive, more positive stuff. It's like when you're a kid and you hear like your mum say like, if you get bullied, well, bullies all have terrible home lives and parents that beat them and no friends, and you very quickly realise that's insanely untrue. As it's almost the opposite scenario. You kind of there is something to there's something to a sort of nasty honesty which I think gives a lot of this edgy stuff a lot of appeal, which more positive stuff cannot hope to compete with. So let's talk about Milo Yiannopoulos and Gamergate very briefly, because if I talk about it for a while, it could easily turn into like an hour-long video, and I don't want that. You guys are flea. I've already probably lost a bunch of you. So Milo, I think it was very smart. I think his rise through Gamergate was very smart, and part of that was because he knew how to kind of play on what the game media was like at that time. You may not know about this guy, but have you heard the name of Jack Thompson? He was an American lawyer and a big anti-video game guy. Like, he successfully did sue Take-Two over some of the content in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. That was kind of big win. But it was basically a guy who would go on, talk about how the newest game was, horrendous, how terrible all the stuff you do is. He'd, point to Grand Theft Auto and be like, this is a game where you have sex with hookers to raise your health, and then you murder them to get your money back. And then all the gaming blogs would go, no, it's not fair, because you don't have to kill the hookers. You can always just listen to music and watch the sunset, or ridiculous shit like that. Well, some of them were. A bunch of them would just be, here's a link to this Newgrounds game where you stab Jack Thompson in the face. Here's a link to a Mortal Kombat mod, so you can put Jack Thompson in Mortal Kombat and rip his head off. Oh, and here's an article about how he apparently has a heart problem. Well, karma is a bitch. So when you got the kind of Anita Sarkeesian, the kind of feminist frequency stuff popping up, I think the response from a lot of people wasn't that shocking, because this was kind of how the culture was on these gaming blogs and news sites. It's even the misogyny angle wasn't new. I remember with Destructoid, there was some Fox News woman or something who came on, and I'm not sure if I'm thinking about two different women, but they were going on about a game called Bulletstorm, and Bulletstorm was a first-person shooter, and you got points. It was one of those rare games where you did actually get points. But you'd get them for combos like a Tony Hawk's. You'd shoot a bunch of guys with grenades and you'd get a ton of points, and a big text would come up saying gang bang, or you'd shoot a guy in the ass and a text would come up saying rear entry. And she went and complained about how it promotes rape culture or whatever. And Destructoid basically did a piece where they were really happy people just spammed her Amazon page with rape jokes and 0-star reviews and stuff. So the sort of thing which happened in Gamergate, I feel, was already set up by a lot of the same people who would complain about it. Obviously not all of them, it depends on the website, but sort of approaching critics in a very juvenile, aggressive way was the norm. So let's talk about Milo. Oh, I like this pitch. Stop being poor, and he's got in that. Smart one, Milo. I think that's a very good. I do think there's a humour to this stuff. I really do. I will admit this image I do find quite amusing. So here's the smart thing Milo did with Gamergate. He went and got himself involved in Postal 2's development, Postal 2's expansions development. So he got to be an NPC, and you could kill him, you could piss on him, he'd run around, and you could set him on fire. And it was a good way to kind of show, hey, I'm not like these, these feminists or anything. I know how to have fun. You know, come hang out with me. I'm not like these woke progressive types. Obviously this was before the term woke was in common parlance, and I think it was a really smart move because it did set this idea that, hey, this is this fun guy, and he had all these right-wing articles, which I think a lot of them weren't written by him, but I think he was smart in how he directed how they were to be written to kind of appeal to more normal people who might not conventionally, who weren't really into the conventional right as they understood it from the sort of that Bush era. And I think it was very smart in how he did it. Now, I didn't like Milo because I actually read up on his opinions, and I was also kind of at a state at this point where I was already willing to be like, you know what, Grand Theft Auto, it's absolutely intentional that you can murder hookers after having sex with them to get your money back. Like, just own that. Don't do this whooshy thing where you act like because you can beat the game without doing it, so it can't be discussed. Because I kind of had I was not a fan of Anita, but I did kind of see certain aspects of the culture and how fucked they were in certain regards. This guy, and besides Milo, you had plenty of other people who hopped on board, got a lot of clout, got big online. Here's two guys who absolutely ruined a generation of men by getting big off Gamergate. Ruined a generation, that's all I'll say. It's Stone Toss. I guess I briefly will talk. No, it's probably been not brief enough. Stone Toss, I really fucking hate him because he's not actually edgy. Because I think back to the Chan boards, and I don't think Stone Toss would have been popular in the early Chan era before it got this kind of more, before it went from nihilistic fuck everyone to actual right wing kind of leaning. And I do think part of that was this whole, like I said, for the Gamergate thing, the idea that suddenly there was this different standard for how we're meant to approach kind of the left versus the right, as I think a lot of people are just like, if we feel like you're against us, we're gonna destroy you, and this is how we've always understood things. But Stone Toss is so fucking bland. I feel like he wouldn't have been big in the past with right-wing circles. With not right-wing circles, he wouldn't have been as big with right-wing circles, because right-wing circles, I don't think in the Bush era were as racist, to be honest. But we can have a whole debate about that because I might be wrong there. Believe it or not, I am a very progressive guy and always have been. I've had some moments where I've slipped a bit, but whatever. I've never liked this stuff. I'll just explain this thing briefly because it'd be fun. Oscar Ray Masato. This is just some stupid weeb joke about how everyone argues over what anime girl is hotter in a show Evangelion. Very good show, but I'm going to go with Masato because she's not 14. People accuse me of virtue signaling, which, to be fair, you're right. This one is actually okay. I kind of agree, although once again, very generic newspaper comment style right-wing take, but I'm not wrong. Okay, this is the stuff you used to get posted on the chans, and I think it was a lot better, and it was far edgier, which is why I find weird when I start to show you Stone Toss's later stuff, which is far more racist than this, but less edgy. Oh, what's this? It's KFC. Yeah, I'm gonna get it. He's dead. Gets money from the cop. Is that woke? I actually question whether this might be semi-woke in a way. Oh, here's something that you'd see regularly. It's this dude. Dude was like a white nationalist. I don't think he was like a channer. I think he was just some guy, people discovered him and would post his stuff. I think he's actually friends with a number of popular comedians, but I'm not going to talk about, the Anthony Cumia era was very different to now. I'm just going to put that like it's a poster on my wall. Just use this video software. That's funny. I can show you some stuff. Give me a sec. Let me show you some novelty t-shirts I've bought from around Camden in London. It's Religions of the World. Geez, I've got a better one. Where's my this one I like. This is the world's greatest fucks. Let's see, we've got what the fuck was that? Mayor of Hiroshima. Look at all those fucking Indians. General Custer. Oh, I like this one. That's not a real fucking gun. John Lennon. Oh, and here's the Peace Resistance, the worst thing I own. I haven't worn this in like a decade. I wore this in London when I was first doing stand-up comedy. Hitler's European tour. Believe it or not, I've never been called a racist. I really should have at this point. I've been called the N-word once by an Indian guy, believe it or not. I guess that's quite common, maybe. It was in a friendly way. Oh, I own this. I like I said, I cannot believe I wore this shit around London for a while. But yeah, I do think there is on the Hitler topic. I guess I'll briefly talk about Hitler before going on about Stone Toss. Hitler, I think the fact that it's such a thing to call people Nazis or compare them to Hitler is like the first thing people go to when they really hate someone is very testament to why there's this edgy appeal to them. Like, I don't know if anyone's ever read the novel Native Son, which is a novel, I'm not sure if it was written in the 30s or the 40s. It's about this black guy who like murders this woman, and it's a really good novel. I really like it, but it is about an edgelord. I feel like it's about the original edgelord in a lot of ways. And there's a bit where he's in a cinema and he's watching like news about Hitler, and he's thinking about how cool it would be to be Hitler. Pre-Kanye that. And I felt it was completely understandable why someone in that situation would see Hitler as kind of almost quite cool. I guess I'd have to do a whole video about why I think Native Son's such a good book, but that's neither here nor there. Let's get rid of that poster on my wall. Oh, here's another. Here's some more electric R slur, because I'm still using the something slurs right now. I'm gonna be polite, so I don't know whether I'll get banned. Oh, there we go. Up and up. Black family. Feeding the ducks. Obama wins election. Screams. All a nightmare. All a nightmare. Don't worry. It's all a nightmare. It's all a dream. Once again, I'm like, I don't actually think the guy who made this is at all woke. I think it's more that he was just making offensive stuff for the sake of it. But once again, I think that was the difference between the earlier edgelord kind of Chan stuff. Was that it did veer more towards just offence for the sake of it, and there wasn't like this far right political ideology. Let's compare Stone Toss's shitty stuff. Oh god, I really do not like this guy. Why do dogs look so different? Because of their breed, some of their genes, why some clever and others not an economic factor. You know what he's dog whistling. Oh, this one's the exact same, and it's about a literal pit bull getting in on the pit bull dog whistle there, ain't you, you unoriginal fucker? Oh, here he is blaming the Jews on raising the age of consent, which is, decreasing white population. QAnon, we weren't just idiots, it was the Jews all along. Open your mind. People complain about lefty comics being full of stupid text explaining themselves. Here's him just doing a whole dump to talk about how the Holocaust was a fat lie. I actually like this one. I will give him credit. This one is kind of amusing. I like this. Like, he. But then I like how his commentary underneath just reveals that, yeah, he's a Holocaust denier. There are people who actually claim this guy is not a Nazi. I guess by his super technical let's insist that you have to literally be a neo-Nazi in Germany isn't, but I think most people who have some sense understand that Nazi doesn't necessarily have to exactly mean you are literally gassing Jews during the Holocaust. It can refer to someone's ideology and beliefs also. So yes, I'd happily call him a Nazi. Oh, this one's just more whinging about. It's probably a Gamergate related thing where it's trying to go like, "Oh, you guys need to get on more with the world's being destroyed by the Jewish conspiracy instead of whining about how you can't jack off to children in your video games anymore." That actually is a thing, by the way. There is a whole group of people who are angry that some games are no longer allowed on mainstream consoles if they let you like grope underage girls. Believe it or not, there is a whole market for that stuff, but that's another video. that would be more on topic with the video which got me banned, my last account banned. So I guess I won't be talking about that for a bit. Maybe I'll put it up on like a porn site or something so I can't get flagged down. This was really all I wanted to talk about. I think the strength of the right, I think over the last 14 years, although I do believe it's beginning to fall apart, maybe, no, not 14 years, let's say last decade, to be lighter, let's say last decade, has been its increasing ability, I think, to pull in a lot of people who feel like the left is, it's almost unempathetic in a way, because I do think like someone like Brennan probably is someone who you don't know how to address honestly, like to a degree I wouldn't, someone like that. And I do think there is a strong appeal. And then when you have this, like I said with the Gamergate thing, this very obvious set of standards where suddenly we've had these vlogs, and for the record, once again, a lot of game sites weren't like this, but a bunch of them were, where you're allowed to be kind of abusive as fuck to your critics, until suddenly, oh wait, now it's this this feminist lefty woman, and now we have to be really nice suddenly. And there is this flip where it's like, what, wait, how? This isn't how we operate. What's going on? You're lying to us. It's something's up. This Milo guy, I'm gonna go listen to him. I think to a degree that would probably just be if they had been more mature from the start, but they weren't, so there we go. Also just the fact that, when someone makes something really offensive, the easiest way to get attention is to go after like some progressive sacred cow. The right have smartly began to learn not to act in the same way. They're a lot cleverer. I think it's beginning to fall apart because of all the review bombing stuff. In a weird way, I feel the anti-SJW community that exists around movies and games and stuff has basically become a worse, much more obnoxious version of the sort of leftist, this problematic media people. But that's a whole other topic. My hope is they don't really gain much, because I do feel like this last decade has been a big win for right-wing populism, and it's mostly made our world a lot worse. But apart from people who are in denial and actually think Hungary's a great place, or Russia, or how probably nowadays they're so crazy they probably think Afghanistan's a great place, if I've seen them say that. Okay, that's enough for me. I feel like I've kind of said my point. I'll probably try and keep uploading. Maybe if I get a decent viewership, I'll try and maybe make some actual edited videos again in the future. I'll still be re-uploading my old stand-up stuff and probably bits and pieces if I can get stuff recorded. I might do book reviews maybe. I don't think a ton of people are doing those. Maybe talk about the Ink Black Heart, J.K. Rowling's new novel. I actually really liked that, and it kind of addresses quite a lot of stuff I've kind of been talking about here, not in the way I have, but I was interested to notice that she actually knows who Weave is. Weave is a very deep cut if you are aware of like the old sort of trolling communities. He currently runs the Daily Stormer, I believe, but he goes quite a way back, and it's one of those things where I was like, wait, she actually is aware of who this guy is. Whoa, this on the older side of a middle-aged woman probably is more aware of like a lot of this weird cultural stuff, and like the writers on like The Boys or something like that. I like The Boys a lot, but I felt like its attempt to kind of tackle the whole like alt-right stuff was nowhere near as clever as people think it is. I think people were just very happy she made a character who was a Nazi who pretended not to be a Nazi, which to be fair is what I've been saying about Stone Toss, but I think that it's a lot more complicated than that, and it's weird to have to give Rowling credit for actually being the one who I think is a bit more aware of how these communities can sometimes function. So that's it for me. See you guys later, hopefully, however many are watching, like maybe 2.